Hello and welcome to this week's episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman, and to our long-term listeners, I want to say thank you for listening, subscribing, and telling others about the show. And if you're one of our newer listeners, thanks for being here also. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode of the show and how to make your practice even better. Have you ever thought about the typical patient in your office? Or have you ever thought about the ideal typical patient in your office? Who is the ideal person who comes into your office seeking your care? That's what we're going to be talking about on today's episode. Welcome to another episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman. I've been in practice for over 30 years, and I continue to work in $1 million practice that I built, ran, and sold. I've taught, lectured, and coached our profession, and helped so many chiropractors build the practice and the life of their dreams. And now, I want to help you do the same. So here's today's show. There's the old adage that what you think about comes about. Or, what you visualize, you get more of. Or, if you believe in the laws of the universe gives you what you want. It doesn't care if it's positive or negative. It just gives you what you want. So on today's show, we're going to be talking about focusing in on really dialing down what is it you really want in your practice. I believe the lifeblood of any practice is the new patients. Yes, I'm not a huge fan of being on the new patient treadmill. I'm a huge fan of educating people about the benefits of lifetime chiropractic wellness care. And having said that, every practice, to some degree, needs some level of new patients coming through the door because people move, because people's lives change, because things happen, and we need to continually build the practice to some level. And I think every doctor listening to this will agree to that. Also, what's interesting is the patients in a practice very much reflect the attitude and the philosophies of the doctor and the staff of that practice. So when I work with doctors who are very hardcore, very analytical, very businesslike, very cut and dry, their staff tends to be along those lines, and their office has that same vibe. Of course it does. And on the other hand, when I work with doctors who are more jovial, more joking, more easygoing, the practice and the staff carry those vibes also, and it follows through onto the patients, and that's the vibe and feel of that office. So the question we're going to ask is, who is your ideal patient? And that's the question that we're going to work to answer as we work through today's episode together. Because what I have seen over the years working with different doctors is they'll often say things like, well, we're happy to help pretty much anyone and everyone in our practice. We're very open, we're very accepting. And I think that's terrific and wonderful. And then when you really dig in, the doctor typically does have at least a few parameters that the patient has to meet. For example, they typically have to be able to pay the bill. They typically have to be able to keep an appointment. They typically have to be able to, at the very least, have some level of personal hygiene so when they come into the office, they're not offensive to the other patients in the office, as well as the doctor and the staff. So even though you may say, we're happy to help just about anybody, there's a certain level, minimal level, that people need to measure up to. But I think it's more than just the minimum. So we really want to focus on who is our ideal patient. Let's spend some time and think about this. Do you prefer to take care of men, women, children, adolescents, teenagers? There's no wrong answer here. But when you're talking about who's your ideal patient, let's attract the patients that we really do want to be helping. And let's face it, in today's world, it goes beyond, I prefer to help male versus female. We now have other categories of trans and how people choose to identify. Are you okay helping these people in your office? And again, there's no wrong answer. It's up to you. You get to decide. As a side note, years ago, I was treating this wonderful lady, and she had decided that she wanted to be a surrogate. She had had a child. She was currently not married, but she really wanted to be a surrogate mother to help another couple to create a family. So she signed up for a service. She was interviewed, found a good match, was happy to be the surrogate, was artificially inseminated, and when she went to the person who had been her OB, her obstetrician, when she had given birth to her son, the OB found out that she was pregnant, went through and asked all the proper questions, and the OB said, yeah, you're a high-risk pregnancy, therefore you're not in the right practice. I can't be your doctor. And she came and asked me about it and said, why am I high-risk pregnancy? I don't understand. And frankly, I didn't either. She was not of an age that you would consider her a geriatric pregnancy. There's a term that women love hearing. And she also didn't have any other health concerns. She was not a diabetic. She had had a completely normal pregnancy the first time. That pregnancy was completely uncomplicated and ended in a normal, wonderful birth. And all of her health metrics looked great. Her thyroid was normal. Her blood counts were normal. She was of a normal body habitus. You name it, everything looked perfect. But this doctor told her that because she was a high-risk pregnancy, that she could not take care of her. And ultimately, I called the doctor and got her on the phone because as her treating chiropractor, I wanted to understand why she was a high-risk pregnancy in case there was something that I needed to be aware of with the care that we provide. And the doctor told me quite quietly that she did not believe in artificial insemination and the whole surrogate process, that she didn't think it was a good thing for humanity and people at large. Therefore, she chose not to take care of those people and they could find care elsewhere. And that's that doctor's choice. I personally don't agree with that, but that was the doctor's choice, so be it. And now, getting back to our topic, who do you choose to be taking care of? So we've given some at least initial thought to the gender of the person and if we care about that. What about the type of education level that they have? Do you care? And the occupation that the person has. Do you prefer to take care of blue collar, white collar, or somewhere in between? Obviously, typically, white collar patients are more well educated and live a somewhat different lifestyle than typical blue-collar employees. They communicate in a different way. They tend to participate in different activities, and therefore that may affect their progress through care and how you help get them better, healthy, and back to the way they choose to be living. And obviously, as you're working with them and they're doing their different activities, if these are activities that you know well also, it gives you more ground to discuss things. You know, if the person is a golfer and you're a golfer, you know, you can talk about different shots and how, you know what, it's okay for you to be practicing your short game, but not using your driver. Or maybe it's the reverse, or maybe it's the putting. But you can discuss things with the person on a deeper level more than just superficially. And we talked about blue collar versus white collar. What about a person who's a stay-at-home parent or a daycare provider or has some other work-from-home situation versus a college student or a graduate student or somebody else who's involved in an academic setting? And then that also relates back to a stage of life question. Do you prefer taking care of children or youngsters, young adults, middle-aged adults, or seniors, or the quite elderly? Again, each are in a different stage of life, living and experiencing different things. Perhaps you prefer to work with your patients and I've been there and done that kind of stage when I was a college student, blah, blah, blah. Or, you know what, I'm raising young kids, you're raising young kids, we can vibe and connect on that level. Or, man, you've raised your children and my children are now at this stage of life, and you can actually even get advice from your patients about things that they've done, and now you're being a resource to each other, or working with the elderly or the very elderly about things they're going through, chances are you're not actively in practice and very elderly, but you know how to take care of these people. They need the care. They have a lifetime of experience and a lifetime of stories that they want to share with you if you choose to listen to them and take care of them. And while we're talking about who we're choosing to take care of, how do you like to be reimbursed for your care? I know doctors that never want to be concerned with the money side of practice. And some of these doctors have pure personal injury practices, and that's just fine. They never have to ask the patient for money. They never talk about money. It goes between the attorneys, the insurance companies. It's all good. I know other doctors that have strictly cash practices. They don't want to deal with attorneys. They don't want to deal with insurance companies. You know what? Here's what I do for you. You're going to pay the fee, and it's all well and good. And there are certain ways that they do that and do it very, very effectively. And then there are doctors who love their insurance patients who have a third-party payer, because you know what? It takes the majority of this financial stress off the person, but yet the person has some financial responsibility. And all these things are fine. It's who do you choose to be taken care of? And as we dissect that down, so maybe you really like personal injury. Maybe you really like work comp. Maybe you really like sports injury. Maybe you really like treating lower back disc issues. Maybe you really like working with headaches. Maybe you really like working with, and fill in the blank. These are the things I really, really enjoy taking care of and do a great job with our patients. Some doctors love taking care of acute care, patients who are in horrible pain, and they want to be there to rescue them and get them out of that acute episode. And for those doctors, I think that's terrific. I know other doctors that love working with the chronic cases. They've been everywhere. They've seen everyone. No one else has been able to help them. These people have been in pain and suffering and having difficulty for years. And finally, they find their way into our office, into your office, for the help that they need and desire, and you can provide that to them. And then there are also patients who really, really, really value their maintenance care, their wellness care. They come into our office, they come into your office, they're feeling good, they're staying good. It's not about how they feel. It's about being as close to 100% healthy as they possibly can be. And they know you can help them with that. You do help them with that. They appreciate it. And lo and behold, ultimately they end up paying you for that also. So a really fun game to play, once you've given this some thought, as you just have, is to bring to your next staff meeting a giant whiteboard or an old school paper flip chart if you want. And then you also obviously have the markers that are appropriate for the media that you're using, and set it up, this blank page, and ask the staff, who are our ideal patients? And as we go around the room or go around the table, everybody puts something in, and you end up with a picture, a drawing. So it's a person, and they're, if you prefer to take care of women, then maybe they have longer hair. If it's someone who's a mother that has children, there's lots of children in tow. Create the picture of this ideal patient. Because as human beings, we think in pictures, not words. So if you create the picture, you're creating future patients in your office as a team. This is who we're visualizing. This is who we want to be helping. If it's everybody, okay, then you're having lots of different people, and that's okay too. Because when you focus on something, you get more of it, which is sort of where we started. Make it into a team event. Everybody's playing. Everybody's having fun with it. And the next thing you know, more of these people are coming into your office. But we don't have to wait for them to come into the office either. If we've identified that there's certain types of people that we prefer to be treating, we can then reverse engineer it and ask, well, where are those people? What are those people doing? And how can we best communicate with them? So if you've decided you really love working with personal injury patients, obviously the answer is To get to know more personal injury attorneys. That's obvious. If you've decided you really enjoy working with younger, middle-aged, or even elderly people who are fitness-minded and want to stay healthy and active and build a healthy body, those people are probably hanging out at the gym or 5K or 10K races or other health-minded activities, and you can then find a way to get involved in those activities, whether it's by supporting it, whether it's by being a vendor at the activity, perhaps becoming involved in the planning of some of these activities, but get involved in that community because those are the people that you're choosing to serve and be around. So when they figure out they need you, you're there and they've got you. And as we talked about on a previous episode, the 3 ways to double your practice, you can work to approach these people one-on-one at the activity, 1-on-10 at some sort of speaking engagement where they're gathering regarding the activity they're involved in, or 1-on-100, or maybe it's 1,000, as you go to social media and the internet. But bottom line is, you're where they are. When you put yourself in front of them being the people that you choose to see and help, you have focused in on, this is who I want to be seeing and helping, and then get to know the community that you want to see and help, involved in the things that they're involved in and doing as they're living their lives. You become part of it, and they understand they need your chiropractic care. It's a total win-win for them, for their health, for chiropractic, and the community that you're choosing to serve. I know doctors that really focus in on very, very specific things in their practice, and that's awesome and terrific. They focus in on multiple aspects of things that we've discussed here, whether it's gender, whether it's occupation, whether it's a specific type of injury or pregnancy-related issue. And these doctors do really, really well with practice, and that's awesome. They know exactly who they want to be treating, and that's what I'm urging you to do also. I can share with you that with my over 30 plus years of practice, you know who my favorite patient to treat is? It's anyone and everyone who has an understanding that being healthy is the way the body is supposed to be. And ultimately, they want to stay that way as long as possible, without drugs, without surgery, or as little as possible of that, to live a long, healthy life. And if you decide to follow through with the Who's Our Ideal Patient exercise with the staff, as we had talked about during this episode, once you've done that, or maybe you've done it and have a couple different drawings that you've created, I think you should post those in your break room or your kitchenette, wherever the staff sees it from time to time, not behind the front desk, obviously, but somewhere where you're going to see it from time to time. And also, you know what? Take a screenshot of it and send that to the show at fortheloveofchiropractic.com, because I would love to see those and have you share them with me. And I'll look forward to chatting with you next week on our next episode. All right, and that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.